So I know that the title is a bit brash with this next topic. However, I want to stress that it is not clickbait. Yes, Winnie the Pooh is banned in Hong Kong, and more specifically, it's Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey, the more recent slasher film featuring Winnie the Pooh. This first article coming from the Hollywood Reporter. This was the initial report. I know it's about a week old by the time you guys see this, but anyway, right here, viral hit Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey pulled from cinemas in Hong Kong over suspected China censorship. The micro-budget slasher has been yanked from more than 30 cinemas ahead of its release, fueling speculation over censorship and political pressure from China, where an unofficial and bizarre crackdown on Winnie the Pooh has been in place for several years. Yes, for those that don't know, Winnie the Pooh is actually banned in China because a bunch of teenage citizens were making memes like the one that you saw at the very beginning of this video, where they were basically comparing President Xi Jinping to Winnie the Pooh. So as a result, Winnie the Pooh is now officially banned in China. In fact, that's actually the biggest reason why Disney's Christopher Robin, the live action Christopher Robin movie that came out in 2018, was banned in China, was because Winnie the Pooh was banned in China. Anyway, I've gone on long enough. Cinema goers in Hong Kong looking to have their childhoods potentially ruined by viral slasher hit Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey may have been left disappointed this week, with the film having been quietly pulled from theaters, a move that has fueled speculation about censorship sparked by memes likening the children's character and Chinese leader Xi Jinping. That was much easier to put it in just basically one sentence rather than me trying to explain it for about a minute, right? The Hollywood Reporter understands that the micro-budget British film in which Winnie and his sidekick Piglet go on a cannibalistic rampage through the 100-acre wood was due to land in more than 30 cinemas in the city this Thursday. That this Thursday would have already passed, because I think this report came out on March 21st. Yeah, that would have been March 21st. So what they are referring to, with this Thursday, let me make sure, that would have been March 23rd, that the date that they're referring to here. And I lost my place. Okay, here we go. The film has also reportedly been pulled from release in Macau. Moviematic, which has organized a pre-release screening of the film in Hong Kong planned for Tuesday, said on social media that its event had been canceled because of unspecified quote-unquote technical reasons. Several cinema chains have since removed the film from their websites. However, Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey has successfully screened internationally, grossing more than $4 million so far, with launches in the US, UK, Mexico, Russia, and Australia, just to name a few territories, without any such technical hiccups. The Hollywood Reporter here's a cut version, which had removed much of the film's gore, had already passed through local censors in Hong Kong, while a secret screening took place there last week. And just to put this into perspective, guys, Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey grossing more than $4 million. Let's put it into perspective. This movie, Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey, was made on a budget of $50,000. Okay, so the movie grossing $4 million. Now, for most movies, well, that's a box office bomb right from the get-go. However, Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey only having a production budget of $50,000, that movie making $4 million off a production budget of $50,000, that's a box office hit, right? They made way more money back than what their production budget was, and probably their marketing budget. Their marketing budget was probably next to nothing, because the premise of the movie alone is enough to generate headlines. If I'll stop hitting my frickin' mic stand with my hand, it's a slasher movie featuring Winnie the Pooh and Piglet as cannibals, right? That's going to get the entertainment press talking no matter what. So, the marketing budget was probably no more than what the production budget was. So let's just say $100,000, if we take production and marketing into cost. So still, you made $4 million off of, potentially $100,000. That's a success. That's a success in my book. Box office wise, here we go. The film's near silent removal from theaters has prompted speculation that it was pulled, according to one source, due to quote-unquote political pressure, with an outright, although unspoken, Winnie the Pooh ban in China now appearing to have extended to Hong Kong. In 2018, Disney's live-action/CGI feature Christopher Robin, featuring a far more savory version of Pooh, wasn't approved by authorities in China. While no reason was given at the time, it was blamed on the country's unofficial crackdown on images of the children's character after he became a symbol of resistance against the ruling they call it Community Party. Just call it for what it is. It's the Communist Party, with bloggers having drawn comparisons between the pudgy, cuddly bear and Chinese leader Xi Jinping. China has been cracking down hard on dissent and freedom of expression in Hong Kong since it introduced the national security law there in 2020, with anything overtly sensitive to the mainland now unlikely to be screened in the territory, which once had its own liberal rating system in place. In 2021, for the first time in 50 years, no Hong Kong broadcaster aired the Oscars, despite Derek Tsang's Better Days being nominated for Best International Film. The move mirrored instructions given by Beijing media regulators to mainland Chinese press outlets not to broadcast live coverage of the ceremony and play down reporting believed to be over the nomination of short documentary Do Not Split about the 2019 pro-democracy protests in Hong Kong. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, an insane, low-budget slasher in which a giant bear bludgeons his victims to death with a sledgehammer and runs over them in his car. My God, I actually need to go out of my way to see this movie just for that alone. Winnie the Pooh murdering the shit out of people with a sledgehammer and running over people in his car. That premise has me sold on this movie. Has me sold on this movie alone. Guys, no joke. Leave it down in the comment section. Would you like me to do a review of Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey for next week's TMRP? Because I can actually get my hands on this movie. Don't ask me how, but I can do it. If you guys want me to review Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey, do let me know down in the comments below. But anyway, Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey, an insane low-budget slasher in which a giant bear bludgeons his victims to death with a sledgehammer and runs over them in his car, GTA style, may not be remotely as serious as a documentary about political protests, but it may well have become the first movie to have been censored in Hong Kong over China's equally insane-sounding Pooh ban. Well, you hurt a man's ego by comparing him to a fucking bear that eats out of a honey jar. I guarantee you, he's not just eating. I guarantee you, Winnie the Pooh is not just eating out of his honey jar in this slasher movie. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. The premise of that movie alone is now getting me. Winnie the Pooh murdering the shit out of people with a sledgehammer and running over people with his car is just that to me is just funny. But anyway, what sparked this video was actually this article from The Hollywood Reporter. The first one was just to set the stage. This one right here, how a Pooh slasher flick may have tipped Hong Kong toward greater Beijing censorship. The micro-budget horror sensation was yanked from more than 30 cinemas ahead of its Hong Kong and Macau release, all because of an old meme comparing Chinese President Xi Jinping to Pooh Bear. Here we go. Oh brother, what has Winnie the Pooh got himself into this time? Something quite a bit more troubling than the usual travails of 100 Acre Wood, it turns out. First, the lovable children's character was transformed into the murderous protagonist Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey, a micro-budget UK slasher film that went viral and scored theatrical distribution across the globe. Then, when the film landed in Hong Kong, Pooh, or the new cannibalistic horror flick version of him, became the surprise source of a censorship controversy involving none less than Chinese President Xi Jinping, and the impact of this surreal character arc, according to insiders, could have real-world implications for the fabled Hong Kong film industry's rapidly dwindling creative freedoms. From prolific... Whoa. I screwed up right there. Anyway, here we go. From prolific Brit horror banner Jagged Edge Productions, known for its gleefully exploitative and childhood-ruining schlock, it's currently working on a slasher version of Bambi. That would be really funny. Make an unofficial sequel to Bambi where Bambi hunts down the hunter that killed his mom. Right, that would be one hell of a movie. Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey, made for just $50,000, sees a feral Pooh and Piglet go on a bloody rampage after Christopher Robin leaves them behind for college. But it wasn't the gore. In one scene, Pooh drives over a girl's head. Again, I now really want to see this movie. That landed the film in hot water in Hong Kong. Having already made $5.5 million following launches in more than 40 markets, including North America, Mexico, and the UK, in February, the film was set for release in 32 cinemas in Hong Kong and Macau on March 23rd, courtesy of local indie distributor Seven Pillars Entertainment. But 2 days prior to the opening, the company put out a short statement over its social media channels saying that the release had been canceled, offering apologies to fans for disappointment and inconvenience. In a follow-up interview, Ray Fong, Seven Pillars' general manager, tells The Hollywood Reporter that the film had been fully approved for release by Hong Kong Office for Film, Newspaper, and Article Administration, the government body that handles the territory's film regulation. Blood and Honey did receive Hong Kong's highest rating, Category 3, which requires all viewers to be over the age of 18, but there was quote-unquote no editing required, according to Fong. The executive insists that the various cinema chains involved in the planned release reached out to his team on Monday to say that the movie was being scrapped, but they provided no detail. Quote, "We are not sure what happened," Fong said. Meanwhile, local film group Moviematic, an organizer of one of the screenings, said on Instagram that the film was pulled for quote-unquote technical reasons. Excuse me. Around the same time, a spokesperson from OFNAA, that's the Office of Film, Newspaper, and Article Administration, suggested the cancellation was a commercial decision made solely by the cinema chains. I don't believe that for 1 second, because again, you hurt one man's ego, especially in China, and it's the end of the world. China experts and the international press wasted little time in connecting the dots, though. In mainland China, which still operates a far stricter film regulation system than the former colony of Hong Kong, the terms quote-unquote technical and commercial are both regularly deployed in public as euphemisms for censorship problems that the government doesn't want to openly acknowledge. When the Oscars were dropped from broadcast in both mainland China and Hong Kong in 2021 for the first time in many years, in response to a Hong Kong protest documentary being nominated in the Best Short Documentary category, local authorities insisted the move was taken because of quote-unquote commercial reasons. And when Chinese filmmaker Zhang Yimou, arguably the country's most esteemed director, had his Cultural Revolution set period drama 1 Second yanked from competition at the Berlin International Film Festival in 2019, the producers cited an unspecified quote-unquote technical problem. It would require the involvement of an especially potent political taboo, however, to impel Hong Kong authorities to backtrack on a Western film's approval at the last minute, insiders say, but Blood and Honey just so happens to feature one front and center. Winnie the Pooh has been the improbable object of aggressive Chinese censorship action for nearly a decade. The problem began in 2013 during Chinese President Xi Jinping's state visit to the U.S. to meet with then-President Barack Obama, when a meme likening the pudgy Chinese premier to Pooh and the lanky American leader to Tigger went viral. China's savvy internet users, accustomed to a life of cat and mouse with censors, soon began mentioning Pooh whenever they wanted to reference Xi in relation to issues both benign and politically sensitive. Later, the character evolved into a bolder icon of dissent among pro-democracy activists across Greater China. By 2018, all mentions and searches of Pooh were frequently blocked from Chinese social media, and the issue took on greater financial consequence for Hollywood in the form of Disney's $70 million live-action CGI feature Christopher Robin, which was blocked from release in China, likely shaving tens of millions from its global box office total. The producers of Blood and Honey bluntly reject the quote-unquote technical issues explanation for the cancellation, noting that the film has been successfully shown on 4,000 movie screens around the world without any other problem or incident. Given its success globally so far, the quote-unquote commercial rationale is just as ridiculous to both those attached to the project and Chinese industry experts. Quote, "I don't believe it for a second," says Stanley Rosen, a professor at USC who specializes in the Chinese film industry. "It's not a good film, But given the attitude in Hong Kong toward Xi Jinping and mainland China, I suspect they were more afraid that they would get too many people showing up as a protest, maybe even in Pooh costume, than too few. That would have been really funny, watching all the people in Hong Kong dress up as Winnie the Pooh and march down the street. That would have been hilarious. Seven Pillars' planned release involves cinemas operated by numerous Hong Kong companies. The notion that all of these different entities simultaneously decided independently to scrap the same film at the exact same time, just 2 days before its opening, strikes many inside and outside the Hong Kong industry as deeply suspicious. Quote, what usually happens in mainland China in a situation like this, when someone in power realizes there is a problem with the film that's already approved, is a call comes down the line saying, you release this film at your own peril, explains Rosen, and anything touching Xi Jinping would override any other concern. Thus, it would appear the Hong Kong film sector, which was promised independence for 50 years after the colony was handed back to China by the British in 1997. Yes, for those that don't remember, the British did control Hong Kong up until 97. That was the last of the British Empire. May now be subject to the same extra legal mechanizations, if I can read today, as the Chinese mainland. Not long after the city's 2019 pro-democracy protests were suppressed, Beijing loyalists in Hong Kong injected a new, wide-reaching national security law into Hong Kong's legal framework, creating vaguely defined crimes of subversion, secession, terrorism, and foreign collusion, with potential punishment extending to life in prison. In late 2021, Hong Kong's film censorship system was revised to include automatic bans for films deemed to be in violation of the same vaguely defined Chinese national security interests. So, you compare the Chinese president to a lovable bear that eats out of a honey jar, and somehow you are a terrorist. That's like saying if you download music off of LimeWire, you're a terrorist. Right? Same exact logic applies. Last year, 2 films, one from Hong Kong, the other from Taiwan, or if you're in China, sorry, you have to say Chinese Taipei, fuck you, it's Taiwan, were dropped from the lineup of an international short film festival in the city because of violations of the new rules. But Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey is thought to be the very first imported feature film to be toppled in Hong Kong because of Beijing-style censorship priorities. Quote, it's not always clear where the line is, so now producers and distributors are starting to censor themselves to stay safe, says a veteran Hong Kong distributor who asked not to be named because of the risk of speaking publicly on the topic. Well, yeah, because, China could have a very funny way of making you disappear, right? You go on an extended vacation where no one ever hears from you ever again, right? A la Stalin Soviet Union, Stalinist Russia. I meant to say, not Stalin Soviet Union, Stalinist Russia. Quote, of course, that's exactly what China wants, and I fear the line will keep moving in tighter in relation to the quote from earlier, not my own commentary that I added. But for the Blood and Honey's writer and director, Rhys Frake Waterfield, already riding high on his creation's near farcical trajectory over the last 12 months, and a budget to box office ratio that has made it one of the most profitable films in history. Yes, a budget of $50,000, and it has made $5.5 million. According to this article, it's already made $5.5 million. It's probably made more money by now, but so yeah, that's a damn good return. The latest news from the Middle Kingdom is merely another badge of honor. Quote, it's insane. This film couldn't get any more controversial, he tells the Hollywood Reporter. And it's great because when you want your film to become culty, being banned in a country is a very nice selling point. And he has a very good point here. And there's two movies that I want to make mention here. One of them is Sacha Baron Cohen's The Dictator, right? Who remembers that movie? It's okay if you don't, but that movie was banned in like 12 countries. I'm pulling this from Wikipedia here under its censorship column. The film is banned in several member countries of the Commonwealth of Independent States, in particular nations with real-life leaders commonly described as dictators, including Belarus and Tajikistan, described as unlikely to be shown in Turkmenistan, shortened to 71 minutes by the censorship in Uzbekistan, and banned from screens 2 weeks after its premiere in Kazakhstan. So yes, Borat got censored in his own country. Rumors were circulating that the film has been also informally banned from showing in Belarus, but state officials denied this, referring to deficiency of proper equipped movie theaters suitable for showing the film distributed exclusively in digital format. Outside of CIS, only the censored version of the film was released in Pakistan, and the film was reportedly blocked from theaters in Malaysia. In Italy, the reference to the Italian Prime Minister in the scene with Megan Fox was substituted by a generic politician to avoid reference to then Prime Minister of Italy, Silvio Berlusconi. It took me a minute. The film has been described by some critics as being Islamophobic, particularly knowing the pronounced stereotype of Middle Eastern dictators, which are mostly Muslim. But still, if the dictator wasn't banned in so many countries, would anybody give a shit about the dictator? What about the interview starring Seth Rogen and James Franco? The ultimate movie that would have came and went. However, after the Sony hacks came out, they started basically getting terroristic threats to basically pull the movie or else. Right, it didn't really work out for the interview because Sony just released the movie onto Crackle anyway. And let me scroll down here. Within hours, within hours of the interview getting yanked from theaters, news hit that Sony is apparently considering a premium online release for the film. For those that don't know, Sony just released it directly to Crackle, which was a streaming service that they owned at the time, back in 2014. That seems like the most logical step, both from a profit standpoint and a safety one. Sony stands to lose millions in this whole affair, not to mention whatever penalties they might owe the film's creative personnel, so any money that could be recouped on VOD would likely help offset that. And the article does bring up that the interview could very well benefit in a cruel and unusual sort of way from all this bizarre publicity. Yes, the fact that the movie got pulled from theaters because of bomb threats actually drew far more attention to the movie. So again, when Reese Frake Waterfield is talking about, the movie being banned in a country is a very nice selling point if you want your movie to become a cult classic, he has a very good point. As for Seven Pillars, while it may not have been able to distribute one of the most talked about films of the year, the Hollywood Reporter understands it's been given the Hong Kong distribution rights to the Bambi slasher, Bambi the Reckoning, which Frake Waterfield is producing and Scott Jeffrey, his partner at Jagged Edge, is directing. As yet, depictions of doe-eyed cartoon deers are still permitted. Still, the Bambi slasher should absolutely be an unofficial sequel to the Disney movie where Bambi is tracking down the hunter that killed his mother. That would be the ultimate Bambi slasher movie. They shouldn't just make him a killer deer for the sake of being a killer deer. Have it be a revenge story where Bambi hunts down the hunter that killed his mother. That if it isn't that, don't even waste your time making a Bambi slasher movie, because I guarantee you nobody will show up to go see it.